I want to have this little segment be to newer Commander players that are trying to build a collection, or to Commander players that want to shore up the real estate in their Commander collection. I want to talk about how right now, exactly where we are at this point in time, there are 3 sets surrounding us, providing us with some of the absolute best Commander lands that you can obtain. And that's Modern Horizons 2 fetches, the 5 of them: Scalding Tarn, Misty Rainforest, Verdant Catacombs, Arid Mesa, Marsh Flats. We've got Streets of New Capenna providing us the Triome lands in the combinations that we didn't get in Ikoria. And we've also got Commander Legends Baldur's Gate reprinting the 2 or more opponent lands, namely Bountiful, Luxury, Morphic Pool, Sea of Clouds, and Spire Garden. Right now...
And these came to us in Battle Bond originally.
Correct. And they got up there as far as price goes. Into
they
the
were
20s.
hitting like 20s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now they are going to be in the 5s. Under 10 for sure. Same thing with these cycling lands. Right now they are under $10. The fetch lands are not under $10, but they are all at all-time lows as we shoot this video to obtain a base level copy of it. In Commander, I know it sounds boring, but lands are going to be some of the best investments that you can make long-term for the strength of your deck and for the, quite honestly, price of your collection. These 3 sets, it's just so cool to me how right now we are at this beautiful little delta of you can get this half of the cycle of the 2 or more opponents lands. You can get this half of the tri-cycle lands. We refer to them like that because they've got cycling and they tap for 3 colors. They also have the relevant land type here, so they're searchable. If you have a card that says search up a forest, you can go get Jetmir's Garden and have access to red, green, and white on the battlefield. That's why these are good. And then the fetch lands are going to be that search to go and find that land type. You know, at the most expensive and highest levels of play, you're going to Mystery Rainforest, so you can go get your, you know, what, dual land, whatever dual land has forest or island in it that you need the colors of that at that time. And so I want newer players to know, because I know in our Discord, joining our Commander League, we got a lot of newer Commander players. And if you are like, I know this is an expensive game and I know it's an expensive hobby, I've got some money set aside, I want to spend on Magic cards, what do I buy? I would posit that right now it's a fantastic time to shore up your real estate, buy your lands that are going to serve you for a long, long time.
And you're saying for people that don't have these.
Correct. I'm not saying spec on these. I'm saying if you don't have these in your collection, there's never been a better time. It's unbelievable how right now just these 3, you know, cycles of lands, these halves of them anyway, are so affordable. So insanely affordable.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and fill people in because, you know, you're saying like these 3 cycles of lands, and players might be watching and they're like, well, each set has a cycle of lands. Why are you so high on these 3? And the reason is because it's not like one set of these lands that's currently in standard or currently having been printed recently is like the Scry lands, for example, that came out of, you know, OG Theros, which are very medium in Commander. You know, you can't tutor them up. They don't really do much. They're okay. You know, they enter tap, they tap for, you know, you get to scry when you play them. And they're not super niche lands like what came out of, you know, Throne of Eldraine, even though those lands are good. Or even, you know, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, for example, as well. Also very niche. They do have application, but they're not like these lands that are just, you know, the fetch lands are going to grab anything that has a land type on it. You know, they're just that good. They're a multi-format staple. So even if you have them, you grow out of Commander, you're like, I want to play Legacy, I want to play Modern. Well, then they're still applicable. They're still great. I mean, just they're always going to hold some sort of value. Players are going to want them. You know, you can have other cards that kind of like fall out of the limelight. You could have a card that, geez, there were some cards in that are mythics that when they're in standard, they get as high as, you know, Scarab God comes to mind. Cards that get as high as, you know, $30, $50, $60 sometimes. And then as soon as they drop out of standard, they plummet. They fall like a rock. That will never really happen with any of these lands. The Battle Bond ones are good because they're like the OG duels. They don't have the land type like the OG duels.
That's the big thing they miss.
But they do generally enter the battlefield untapped. No
Tap
drawback.
for either color, no drawback. Comes
Yeah.
into untapped. The only downside to these lands is that they aren't searchable, and they couldn't make them searchable because that'd basically be reprinting the OG duels, which is a big no-no. And then for your tri-lands, they are searchable. They do have the land types, and they also come with cycling built in. So if you draw them late and you don't need it, you pay 3, discard it, draw a card. Just cycle it away.
That's what I like about these the most.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, they have to enter tapped. I mean, if you have like an Amulet of Vigor or something like that, you're going to get around that. But I never have a problem with, like, you know, I play a fetch land turn 1. You know, when it gets back around, EOT, search up one of these. If I don't have a turn 1 play, if I don't have like a Soul Ring or something like that.
Exactly.
Just like tutor up my exact perfect colors. And now I have, you know, the best possible scenario. And then, yeah, the cycling is really good because when you do draw a land late game, you don't want to land, just cycle it away. Get something else.
I just know that
versatile.
4 or 5 years ago, if we were sitting here talking about these are at their all-time lowest, these are at their all-time lowest, these didn't exist yet, but you know what I'm saying. I just know that we would have been hurting to find these for good prices. It would have been hard to tell newer players, yeah, you really need to go spend $40 on some land if you really want to optimize your deck out the most. But right now they're so
before
affordable.
That meaningful reprint, before the meaningful reprint for fetch lands.
Oh yeah.
The blue ones, Scalding Tarn and Misty Rainforest, they were just stupid. If you look at the Scalding Tarn chart, for example, for Zendikar
copy,
or even Modern Masters 2017, but you can see, like, look at where that chart got.
That's over 100. That's up in the high 90s before
and
we
that
started.
was when Modern was super big. People were super high on Modern, but you had to have 4 sets of these.
I'd imagine
there was a GP that Joel and I wanted to go to, and we couldn't really do well in the GP because we didn't have fetch lands.
Yep.
And you just have to have them. So it's like when you think about, wow, people were paying $360 to $400 for a set of Scalding Tarn, and now you can get the set for around $80 to $100. I mean, that's great. Now, this is a meaningful reprint. We're not saying they won't be reprinted again. They absolutely will. I imagine they reprint
I would
fetches.
think that we don't see them again for 5 years minimum.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible. When you do have something as powerful as a fetch land, as a company, when you go, all right, this thing that we created in Onslaught, people loved it in Zendikar. They like froth over these things. When we put them in a set, people go crazy for it. We need to make sure that we don't like overprint it. You do want there to be some sort of desirability to it. If you tank fetch lands down to $5, that's great for players. But it kind of kills the allure of this card. It kills this card that really draws players in, because there's something about, it's like you're playing a fetch land, which is important to your strategy, but you're also like, and these are worth money, baby. So you don't want to tank the price on those. You don't want to make it, let's just say it like this. You don't want to make it to where when you put a set out and fetch lands are in it, that players are like, yeah, whatever, it's got the fetch lands. You want to be able to, as a company, so I'm just talking strategy here, you're saying 5 years, maybe 5 years, maybe more, maybe less.
Wizards has always proven to be pretty good stewards of their reprint equity. They know what they've got. There's a reason you don't see Mana Crypt all the time. There's a reason you don't see fetches all the time. They're meant to sell sets when they get reprinted. So Modern Horizons 2 did that. That was their goal there. It's going to be a while. I mean, prior to Modern Horizons 2, which was 2021, correct? We saw them in Modern Masters 2017. So, and
then they put them in that Secret Lair Ultimate, which was stupid.
Count. We don't count that. Yeah. We did get the Expedition versions of them, but those Lottery Chase cards. So last meaningful reprint was 4 years before the Modern Horizons 2 reprint. So
Right.
I just think that as a Commander player, we're in a nice little niche of a time where you could really fill out the real estate of your Commander collection with 3 huge cycles of lands that are at all-time lows.